You busted me being all giddy. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. Today is Saturday, October 17, and we get together here on Facebook live every day at 10:30 in the morning, not at 8:30, at 10:30 in the morning local time to share headlines, stories, tips, comments, suggestions, and ideas to make our lives better here in Puerto Vallarta as an English-speaking community. We are always happy to get together these mornings and to see new people joining us every day or different people coming in and out. Either way, it's just wonderful to see that people have come to find out about Coffee and Headlines, and it is always great to welcome new folks to these broadcasts. If you happen to be new, my name is Paco, and you can let us know that you're new by writing the word new in your comments. And if you do that, we will give you a proper welcome. Lots of things to cover today. Let me first, oh my goodness, Deanna asks, why is it so hot? And I tell you, Deanna, I wonder the same thing. Excuse me. Apparently, there is a heat wave in the area. I noticed something from the weather forecast people in Mexico saying that there's a heat wave, but at least last night we got a good shower late at night. I don't know if you enjoyed that last night. Let me very quickly take, oh, good. We have a real estate developer in the house. This is wonderful because we're going to have real estate development questions in a little while. I see Eric is here. Let's see who else is here. Raymond says it's a beautiful day in Conchas Chinas. We have news about your neighborhood, Raymond. James is here from Lake Merritt, Oakland. Bill is here from Palm Desert, California. All kinds of wonderful places. This is wonderful. We are having another windy, hot day. Well, James, let's just hope that the weather is going to continue to get cooler as we continue through the rest of the month, which is usually what happens during this month. It is always great also to see all these news about folks that are coming back to Puerto Vallarta. Kelly, this is great to hear. It's always exciting. Michael will be arriving soon as well from Colorado. This is awesome. Who else is here? Who else is here? I think I saw another real estate person in the house because we'll have answers. We'll have questions rather about that new building in Conchas Chinas. Mayra, my dear friend, Miss Mayra, ¿cómo estás? It's always great to say hello. Mayra is my dear friend from a printer called Coloristas, who is or was, I'm not even sure, responsible for printing Vallarta lifestyles for many, many, many years. And we developed a wonderful friendship through the years. And I'm just so happy to see so many friends here. Dan brings up the conversation about gifts from yesterday. I think, let me answer this one specifically. What I would do here, Dan, is I would get in touch with your landlady. I think your thought of, because you already have a relationship with them, I think it's perfectly adorable and beautiful that you get in touch with your landlady and say, hey, we're thinking of bringing something from your granddaughter. What would make her happy? because that way you will at least not be buying random gifts for someone. You will be actually making a more personal um, gift giving experience. And I was actually very happy to see all the people that responded yesterday to that thread of the gift giving and responsible gift giving. We're going to continue to talk about this in the future because clearly it is something that many of you feel strongly about. And I love that. I really love that. Janet's going to be here on the 5th. Awesome. Armando viene en noviembre. He'll be visiting in November. This is wonderful. Um, la 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 la. Oh, look at all these hellos. You guys are so super awesome. Why am I only seeing the standby screen? Don't know, Mark. You may want to refresh your browser. Uh, Jeffrey says, "Don't forget me. I'm in New Mexico." How could we forget anyone? Our friend David Van Pelt is getting ready to come back for spring break. This is so cool. This is so cool. Anyhow, let us get started because we have a lot of news. Several of you, um, oh gosh, the aguinaldo. This is another important question that we'll have to explain at some point. Because I have an idea of what a good aguinaldo would be for house cleaners. Other people may have a different idea. We will definitely bring this up, James, at some point. Anyhow, oh, look at this. Christy's planning a late November trip. Jill is coming on the 7th. This is super cool. Anyhow, so glad to hear and so glad to see that many of you are getting ready to come back to Puerto Vallarta. Let us hope that your trips will be safe. Let us hope that you will find in Puerto Vallarta the safety that you need, because ultimately we all want to be in a place where we feel safe, and I'm glad to see that some of you feel that you would be safe here in Puerto Vallarta. Let us dive into the news and let us begin with the not apprehension. Well, yes, he was apprehended. He was captured. The Drug Enforcement Agency captured a former Mexican general on drug trafficking charges. This bit of news has rocked the whole world, but let me first throw the introduction into you. Here we go. Boom. And as I was saying, headlines are made all over the world about the capture in the United States of former General Salvador Cienfuegos, who was involved in production, distribution, and trafficking of drugs and money laundering during the presidential period led by, oh my God, what is his name? I can't believe this. The little monkey. Oh my God, the name of our former president escapes me and it'll come back to me, I promise. But there he is in the middle. Ex-Mexican drug ex-Mexican defense secretary arrested in U.S. on Drug Enforcement Administration warrant. And yes, he was the Secretary of Defense during the presidency of blank. I am drawing a blank with the Televisa president, this little guy here. He was that inconsequential. Peña Nieto, thank you, Heather. Thank you very much. Peña Nieto, thank you, Ryan. I'm having a pothead moment, speaking of drug trafficking. But don't think I am a serious case by any means. What does this mean? Well, it means a number of things. Of course, this was a capture that was made in the United States. And I'm going to leave two headlines in English, two links in English, so that you can get better informed at what this is all about. Peña Nieto's presidential period was marked with a lot of corruption. That's just the easiest way to say it. And unfortunately, in the past, Mexico used to let these things happen. And with the presidency of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, as much as he has detractors, one of the things that our current president is very clear about is the fact that nobody is above the law. And the this particular situation is something that, of course, the former general is being charges are being pressed for him in the United States. Needless to say, there are other charges for him here in Mexico, and I am sure that the Mexican government at some point is going to request his extradition. We know for a fact from this other headline, and because we've been keeping our eyes on this situation, that his apprehension will also have repercussions in the Ayotzinapa case here in Mexico. We know that to be the case in which 43 students mysteriously disappeared, and a lot of involved people have been very quiet about this particular situation. But in another headline, we find out from President Lopez Obrador that there are 27 apprehension orders pending for other individuals involved with Ayotzinapa. So this is news in progress, the news about General Cienfuegos, and I'm sure that we will continue to see more news, and we will continue to cover this as we move forward. In other news, this weekend, the weekly traffic light or stoplight that measures how our states are doing shows that we have 17 states in red, including Jalisco at the end of this week. We have 14 in yellow and 1 in green, and that would be the state of Campeche. The vast majority of the country continues to be apprehensive and cautious about opening, and a number of states are starting to publish news or notes that have something to do with the fact that it might be necessary to close down or to go back to some kind of containment strategy. We know what's going on. Do you hear that whistle? That's the trash. Oh no, that's the water guy. It's a water guy. He comes by and he blows his whistle, and then he goes, agua. See, I can do it as good as he can. So anyhow, welcome to Broadcasting from Home. Anyhow, let me move on and see what do we have here. Hotel owners. Oh, this is a tricky bit of news because hotel owners are concerned about the fact that they're not going to make as much money because a lot of foreign tourism is not showing up just yet. And this brings up an interesting and slightly uncomfortable situation that we talk about. Oh, what do you mean you're water guy? I love it. Do we have the same water guy, Diana? Does your water guy scream the same way as mine? I love it. Anyhow, hotels are concerned that foreigners are not coming down as swiftly as they used to. And this brings up this interesting concept that for the longest time, the destination, our destination, and other destinations in Mexico have referred to international tourism as quality tourists. And the so-called quality tourists are considered quality tourists because they allegedly bring more money to spend here. And while there may be some truth to this, we know for a fact that not every international tourist is a quality tourist. And we also know for a fact that there are always, unfortunately, a certain level of subtle discrimination in Mexico towards Mexican tourists. And I know some Mexican tourists give us such a horrible, bad reputation, just as much as tourists from other places. Whenever I see news items about the fact that hotels are complaining because they're not getting enough international tourists, it always makes me wonder, well, how kind have you been to local tourism? How well have you fostered local tourism in the city? I myself have been a victim of a certain level of discrimination when I remember going to Las Carmelitas many, many years ago to have dinner with some friends, and we were a table of 3. And we arrived, and about 15 or 20 minutes later, a table of about 10 or 12 people who were clearly from another country because they were speaking another language arrived at the restaurant, and miraculously, they were served their dinner first than we were. And at some point during that dinner, I got up and I said, well, how is this possible that we arrived before they did? and you guys waited on them first. I mean, we've been sitting here longer, and unfortunately, this happens. This happens in Mexico. So whenever I see again news about hotels or businesses complaining that there's not enough foreign tourism, there's this part of me that wants to say, well, what are you doing to cater to Mexican tourism or local tourism? So that's something that you may want to think about and ask yourselves if the shoe fits, if you're looking at ways to cater to the local tourism. You know, local tourism can also be very, very supportive, particularly in these difficult times. Let me move on to a couple of other news items, and then we'll take a look at your remarks. As we mentioned yesterday, the organism or the committee that authorizes liquor licenses and business licenses met yesterday to get caught up with all their permits and stuff like that. And one of the permits that was not authorized was the permit for this controversial Sky Bar in Marina Vallarta. They did not receive their liquor license. It is called Rooftop 360. This is a new rooftop bar that has been making residents grumble because apparently the noise level is too high, and it is expected that they will be shut down. We'll have to see how that unfolds. If they don't have the permit, they should be shut down. We also learned from this other headline that whereas the airline recovery or the airline traffic is not increasing as fast in Puerto Vallarta as in other destinations, we are getting a lot of tourism coming through the highways. Again, this is one of those situations in which, at least during this time of the year, the state tourism agency has been very, very concerned about promoting highway tourism and in promoting Puerto Vallarta as a destination among people that live in surrounding states. And this seems to be working. There are some figures here that look at increases as compared to past years and as compared to other destinations in Mexico. So let us hope that this kind of tourism continues to arrive in the city. Next, we have, the Conchas Chinas thing. Yeah, let's talk about the Conchas Chinas thing, because according to this, there is a new tower, a new condominium tower coming up in Conchas Chinas at a place where there used to be a house that has a name, and I'm going to find the name in this news item in a second. But a number of Conchas Chinas residents are protesting about the fact that a new at a place where that used to be called Casa Carmelina, a new condo tower is starting to be built, and apparently they don't have the proper permits in place. According to this article, the building is attempted in a place where they want to build over 40 meters in height, and in that particular place, a building of more than 9 meters over the level of the highway is not permitted. I would be curious to see if our real estate friends that are in the house happen to know the development's name, or if you happen to know the name of the developer or real estate agency that is representing it, so that we can keep track of this and we can inform our audience responsibly about who is building what and whether they have the permit to build it or not. So, real estate friends that are in the house, if you have a comment, we would love to hear it now or whenever, and we will continue to keep our eye on this particular development. I have one more bit of interesting, important news, and then we dive to your comments. This has to do with the fact that while the highway from Guadalajara to Puerto Vallarta, the high-speed highway, it's not advancing, there is another important highway that is moving very quickly, the construction of it rather, and this would be the highway that connects Talpa and Tomatlan. Talpa and Tomatlan now, and in fact, I pulled out a map so that I can show you what this other highway means. Here is Talpa de Allende, and we know Talpa because it's a very important tourist religious destination. Here's Mascota, here's San Sebastian, here's Puerto Vallarta, and here is Tomatlan. Tomatlan is another important city. It's the head of the municipality of Tomatlan, and I believe the name of the municipality is Tomatlan. I am not sure. But as you can see from this map, if you want to go from Talpa to Tomatlan, you have to go through Puerto Vallarta, and it takes up to 4 hours and 44 minutes to get there. With the new highway going from Talpa directly to Tomatlan, the trip will take about 1 hour and a half. And this is a good thing because, number one, it will connect two parts of our state in a more efficient way. And look at how fun that loop the loop is going to be to travel through highway, to just go one way and go around the whole circle and then come back. It'll be a great opportunity to go exploring, and this is a good thing. Let me stop right here because what we have next is just a leisurely stuff, and I want to take a look at some of your comments. Let me go back and la la ni la la ni na ni na 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 na. Your water guy, I love it. I love it. Oh, do you see? If you sit here in my living room, you get to hear all these wonderful sounds that come from outside. We have yet to hear the guy that sharpens the knives. Have you ever heard the knife sharpening whistle? It's funny because the guy that sharpens knives uses the same whistle wherever you go in Mexico. So that sound and the sound of a tortilleria, a tortilla making factory, is universal. I mean, it's like you can go wherever you go in Mexico and in the world. I mean, I remember living in Boston and there was a tortilla making place not far from where I used to live. And you used to be walking, and as you approach the place, you hear this sound, and this sound is reminiscent of all things wonderful Mexican. So the water guy that yells agua and the guy that sharpens your knives with his whistle, they're part of our colors. I love them. I love them. Anyhow, quality tourist is racist. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Even when it is true that a lot of foreign tourists bring more money into the destination than local tourists, we as a world, and I think we as a destination, and certainly we as a country, need to handle those subtleties in a better way. In a better way. And we are far from being in the place where we should be. Kelly says service should be first come, first served. I agree. I can't believe you guys are having birria omelets and all kinds of things. That sounds delicious. Kathleen comments, waiters, visitors from other places tip higher than Mexicans. This is probably true, and it's a cultural thing. Again, it needs to be handled properly, and maybe a lot of education needs to fall into place as far as that is concerned. Ryan, thank you for your clear answer. The development is called Carmelina, and it's represented by Homia, and the project has been approved by the MLS committee, which means they have the proper permits in place. I have no reason to disbelieve that. The question left in one's mind is always, did they get their proper permit lawfully, or was there some kind of arrangement involved? And I don't mean to direct that back at you, Ryan. It is unfortunate, and we've talked about this before, it is unfortunate how there are some very awesome developments and awesome reputable real estate agencies in this town. And I'm sure that you also have to deal with some of the shenanigans that go on with some less than reputable developers and real estate agencies. And that is unfortunate. It's a good thing that the multi-list development committee is in place to help us point the light at developments that are developing responsibly. And we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll keep an eye on this one. Kathy asks where I am originally from. I was born and raised in the city of Monterrey, northern part of Mexico. It's the capital of the state called Nuevo León. I spent my childhood there. At age 10 or 11, I moved to Mexico City, where I went to school. I went to the National Conservatory of Music there, and I stayed in Mexico City until I was 19. Then I went to live in Boston, Massachusetts, where I remained for 19 years. Then I got homesick, and on December 27, 2001, just weeks after 9/11, I arrived in Puerto Vallarta and have been here ever since. And I love it. This is my new home. La 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 la. Um, Catherine asks, is the MLS Development Committee a government organization? It is not. It is just the real estate organization that polices the legality of of the of the developments. To the best of my knowledge, the developer shows up with the MLS or the real estate organization, says, look, here are my papers. And the real estate organization says, oh, those papers seem to be in order, so you're okay. But no, it is not a government organization. By the time people show up with their papers to the real estate organization, which is really AMPI, I believe, the real estate organization, the papers have to come from the government. Let's see. Lynn asks, how long would you think in total the Circle Road will take to drive? Let's break it down. Let's see. From Puerto Vallarta to San Sebastian is approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. Add an extra half an hour to Talpa de Allende. So that would be an hour and 45. And then from Talpa de Allende to Tomatlan, it's an hour and a half. And then from Tomatlan to Puerto Vallarta is another hour and a half. So if I was going to do that as a road trip, I would probably choose to spend the night in Talpa de Allende and then continue on the next day. But I suppose if you wanted to do it in a hurry, you could go around the loop on the same day. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. Let's see. Ryan clarifies further how MLS works and how it is there to protect buyers. This is wonderful. Sylvie loves the knife guy sound. I love it too. I would love to get a hold of one of those whistles. You know, if I ever traveled far away and I felt homesick, I would just blow the whistle. I love it. You're charmed by the local sounds. I love it. I love it. I love it. Jorge asks, with all due respect, is it a situation? This is such a great saying, a Mexican saying. I'm going to have to translate this because it's fabulous. Con dinero baila el perro. We have a saying in Mexico that has to do with bribes. The whole saying is, con dinero baila el perro. With money, the dog dances. Sin dinero, bailas como perro. Without money, you end up dancing like a dog. What that saying means is that, you know, if you have money, you can buy your way through things. When you don't have money, you get screwed around. It is not a bad thing to say. Unfortunately, again, I think a lot of development projects in this town have earned a bad name. And please correct me if I'm wrong, real estate friends that are in the house. They've earned a bad rep because a lot of development permits have been obtained questionably, you know, and this is just what happens. Let's see. Oh, yes. And I mean, Tony is a perfect example. Tony lives at Loma del Mar, and that Loma del Mar used to be a beautiful development. And right behind him, it was blocked by that huge building. And he has now 2 meters distance between his window, which used to have a beautiful mountain view. I know because I lived in that development. And now it is obstructed by this enormous building that was built there on a street that was it was a pedestrian street. So I think it was 2 administrations ago that, like 1 week before the mayor left, he signed papers to authorize that development. And that's what happens. Our local politicians will give these permits like 1 week or 2 weeks before they end their term. and they go away. So to get them back to answer for these permits becomes a really complicated political maneuver. And it is unfortunate that that has gone on. And this is the kind of situation that Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador is trying to work against at federal level. La 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 la. La 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 la. Oh, lovely. We get to see what the whole project is going to be about. Thank you very much, Michael. Um, there is a legal process for getting taller buildings approved and permitted, not need to pay off any officials. I don't know that that's good or bad. I really don't know because there are some places in town where I honestly don't think we need taller buildings, but it's difficult to stop that kind of development. Um, let's see. Uh, Jorge asks if I am regiomontano, which means I consider myself from Monterrey, chilango, or consider myself from Mexico City, or pata salada, which would make me a local. I identify myself as a pata salada. Although to be an authentic pata salada, you need to have been born here. But that's how I identify myself. Let's see. Does anybody know if they have first class buses to Talpa de Allende? No, no. The buses are very, very basic. And I know that because the buses start um, near my house. The depot is near my house. The buses go all the way up to Talpa and then they come back. And I believe they also go from Talpa to Guadalajara. It's its own bus company. They are slow, but and they're not as comfortable as a first class bus, but they will get you there absolutely. This is true, Heather, and we know this very well because we both worked for John Uden, my former boss, the publisher of Puerto Vallarta, of Vallarta Lifestyles. He was the one who founded the MLS system. He was my editorial mentor, and it is to him that I owe so much that I've learned about publishing and being a good editor and writing responsibly and not being an entitled influencer. As we were talking about influencers the other day, I remember how when we used to work at Lifestyles, John, our boss, was always very clear that we should never accept favors from restaurants or businesses or gifts of any kind because it was just not right to do that. And we follow that to the T, and I continue to very much feel strongly about that. So many questions and so many comments, but let me continue with headlines because we still have a few things to go. Let's see, where did we stop? Oh dear. I have some dreadful things, and then I have some real awesome feel good things. But first, let's take a quick look at the weather. It is 28 degrees, feels like 32. It is 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is lower, thank God. It's down to 76%. There is only a 1% chance of rain right this very minute. And the forecast for today is that it'll be humid and partly cloudy through the day. Tomorrow, Sunday, the same thing, humid and partly cloudy. And Monday, it'll be humid through the day. Let us hope that the weather continues to lower in temperature and lower in humidity as we move forward. So before we dive into the happy news, I want to share the new Lord. We have a new Lord, and this Lord made me really angry. This would be Lord Asperger, and this would be a university teacher who is teaching online courses, and one of his students apparently has Asperger's syndrome, and he referred to him in very condescending, hurtful terms by calling him, where was it? Un pinche menso, a fucking dumb student, he called him. And it's raised a lot of eyebrows, this news item, because in the video, you can see the professor teaching, referring to the students in a very familiar way, like saying, hey, dudes, come on, and so forth and so on, but throwing in some insults in the mix that, depending on how you look at it, He's just trying to be a buddy buddy. But I am sorry, you just cannot call a student dumb, at least not in my book. So I think we're going to be hearing a lot about this particular professor, Cesar Leal, because humiliating students is definitely a no-go. It's certainly not in my book, and certainly not when you are a university level professor. I mean, not good. Shame, shame, shame. And I hope he gets a lot of shame. Or maybe I hope he doesn't sleep well for a month or two or four. In other news, um, brace for holiday Shipageddon, says the New York Times. And here I was thinking I was going to be fabulous because I had come up with a fabulous term called Cheesegate. You know, all the cheese permits that are being declined here in Mexico because cheese is not made of cheese. I figured we would start calling it Cheesegate. Or if that had happened in the United States, they might have called it, I was going to say Shitgate, but that's not what I mean. Cheesegate. Well, the United States, so fond of coming up with all kinds of slick phrases, developed something called Shipageddon. And Shipageddon is all about how the pandemic and the holidays was going to make shipping gifts a zoo. And the news item essentially says, just order things early and expect them to, see if you expect them to arrive on time. And we already know that because it's common sense, but I was just so taken by the Shipageddon business. And oh, Gouda-gate, says Raymond. That's a good one. And Paul liked my cheesegate. Yes, isn't that amazing? Anyhow, that was it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Let me play my epic fail sound. Okay, am I ready for the good news? Oh, yes, I am ready for some feel good news. But before we do that, let me take a quick look at some of your comments. La la li la 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 la. Me, ma, me, ma, me, ma, me. Mexican sounds. Oh, we should do a whole thing about Mexican sounds at some point. La 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 la. I see a lot of back and forths about prices of land and developments and stuff like that. Uh, Ryan, I love watching you type because you always type with such good sense. Um, and I appreciate that very much. Uh, La 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 la. And Eric chimes in as well about this important topic. See, you know what it is? You know what it is, Eric? And you know what it is, Ryan? It is not that different than what happened the other day when I had that wonderful encounter with the doctor at the Isla Rio Cuale. Remember? The doctor that was supervising the replanting of trees and vegetation on the isla. He was awesome because he took the time to explain why decisions happen the way they happen. In this particular case, I appreciate both Ryan and Eric because they are taking the time to explain to us mere mortals the factors that come into place when these decisions are made as far as real estate development goes. It would be so wonderful if many other areas of public interest in the city would have eloquent spokespeople that could help us better appreciate where everybody is coming from. And that is a very personal wish. Maybe we will have an interview with Ryan or Eric at some point so that they can tell us what their point of view of real estate development in Puerto Vallarta seems to be like these days. If you guys would appreciate something like that, just write the word cheeseburger. There you go. There you go. Um, let's see. Let's see. Bum, ba bum, 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 bum. Ah, your dog didn't like the fail sound. I am sorry, Sylvie. Sorry to hear that. Let's see. Let's see. I should do a show on Mexican sound because it's very helpful and confusing for us gringos. I'll be happy to do that, James. I'm always walking around with my little audio recorder because I never know when I'm going to capture a good interview. So I'll definitely be paying attention to this in the future. Does Luna get weekends off or does she get OT pay? She gets extra TLC. That's what she gets. And I see cheeseburger, and I see another cheeseburger, and I see another cheeseburger. You guys are such troopers. This means that we should plan a little live conversation with our real estate friends, and we know where to find them. Maybe we'll do that sometime in the near future so that we can ask questions about, oh my God, look at all those cheeseburgers. You guys are so funny. I love it. I love it. And what a great reaction. And this is a perfect reaction for me to share three great bit of news to wrap things up today. And I love that it is Saturday and I love that we wrap things with good news. And the good news are as follows. The first one requires a little bit of explanation. When you are a news reporter at a television studio, you're usually just reading. You're reading the news that the editor has prepared for you. Many times, newscasters don't get to know what they're going to read ahead of time. And in fact, a lot of the funny bloopers that we see on YouTube about news casting going wrong is because the news anchors don't know what they're going to be talking about until they're actually reading it. In this particular case, this particular news anchor from Channel 11 in Mexico City started reading about a marriage proposal only to realize that it was her own marriage proposal and it was happening live on air and the video is there. And of course, the newscast is in Spanish and there she is. And it's something that I want you to consider watching today because even if it is in Spanish, even if you will not understand the language, I am sure it'll make you smile. So I'm going to leave this in the bookmarks as always for you to consider. Another bit of good news, this is good news for Mexico, is that the movie Ya No Estoy Aquí, or I'm No Longer Here, is going to represent Mexico in the Goya Awards. The Goya Awards um, are Spain's most important annual film awards ceremony. So to know that this Mexican film directed by Fernando Frias is going to be part of the competition is brings a lot of good vibe and good reputation. It's a privilege. It's an honor for Mexico because it's going to compete in the category of best Iberoamericana, Latin American, but Iberoamericana includes Spain, the best Latin American plus Spain movie. And the best news is that it is available on Netflix. The movie has to do with a local gang member who's 17, who lives in Monterrey, gets caught up in the wrong place with the wrong circumstances and witnesses something that he shouldn't have witnessed. And he has to run away. He has to run away to New York City. And he's only 17 and he has to deal with New York and the culture there, not knowing the English language and so forth and so on. And then he comes back to Monterrey sometime later to find out what happened to his gang. I have not watched the movie, but I saw the trailer and I think it's going to be an important film to watch. Yes, it is subtitled, but I'm sure you can live through the subtitles because this is probably going to be a good look at at a subculture of Mexico, which has to do with Mexican style called cumbia, which is very popular in northern Mexico, where I'm from. And the last bit of news happened here in Puerto Vallarta and happened to one of our very own friends. This happened to Vicky Walters and her husband, who were sitting right next to El Dorado on the beach. They were cocktailing, and all of a sudden they saw that there was a baby sea turtle where they were, and all of a sudden more baby sea turtles started appearing. And it turns out that they were just hanging out on their lounge chair on top of a sea turtle nest. And thank goodness the sea turtles survived. They had been there for several weeks. I forget what the period of incubation is. But look at the photographs. It's like first there was one, and then there were more. And all of a sudden, there is a whole bucket load of turtles that were born right where they were hanging out on the beach. Isn't that a wonderful bit of news? So needless to say, the authorities were called immediately and the turtles were safeguarded. And I just love a feel good story like that. It made me smile. I really hope that it made you smile as well. Let me take a last minute look at your comments. I see many cheeseburger comments. I love it. Um, Logan is giving Luna ideas on whether she has benefits on Sunday or not. Logan, don't be a bad influence, or I'll start giving some tips to your own doggies. Um, let's see. More cheeseburgers and more cheeseburgers. I can't believe this. This is so much fun. And Ryan loves cheeseburgers, which I lead that to mean that Ryan loves a good interview. Let us talk sometime in the next couple of weeks, Ryan, just to sit down and figure out a way to become a more informed community as far as development goes. Margaret, who owns a building that we've been trying to do a tour of, Margaret Parrish, who owns Casa Tres Vidas in Quinta Maria Cortez. I've been in touch with JJ, Margaret. We're trying to coordinate schedules, and Quinta Maria Cortez is just a gorgeous property full of, Mexican history and local history. And it's a gorgeous place to stay, and it's just a historic building. I'm hoping that we'll be able to at some point go in there with our cameras so that everybody can get to see this beautiful home. Um, um, la 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 la. I see some thank yous, so some of you are already leaving. I'm almost ready to say goodbye, and I'm glad you guys love the turtle story. Yes, it is absolutely miraculous. It is absolutely miraculous. Sylvie says, last month we saw a mama turtle lay her eggs at El Dorado. That's one of the most spectacular, amazing things that happened here, my friends. I mean, and we take it for granted. I mean, to be at the beach and all of a sudden you see these monstrous, big, ginormous animals appear out of nowhere and do their thing. It's like, that's when I think that Puerto Vallarta is a paradise-like place. And Margaret, you're right, pinning JJ down is a real project, but we'll work on it, absolutely. And now we are pretty much at the end of our broadcast. Yay, this was a fun day for me. I sure hope it was a fun day for you. It was a great mix of interesting comments, interesting news, and just fun stuff to know. I would like to remind you that tomorrow we will have absolutely no news, as we do every Sunday. Tomorrow will be Sunday Fun Day, although I will be keeping a close eye on the statements made by our governor tomorrow. I've been reading a lot about this just in case we close down again business, and I fear that we may be getting closer to the emergency button than the authorities are leading us to believe. I hope that's not the case, because one way or another, it disrupts this path of recovery that we're going through. But at the same time, if we need some kind of reminder that we're not doing enough as a society, it is always important to be reminded that we need to wear our face mask, keep our distance, and be outside only for the necessary stuff. I hope you're taking that advice, and I hope your life will be full of good stuff today, and I hope to see you again, hopefully tomorrow. And if not, sometime soon. Have a great day, everybody.